Welcome to the In Shape Fitness Show. I am Coach Kim, and today is the first In Shape Fitness Show podcast that I've recorded since I've been in quarantine. Not quarantine, really. I'm not sick, nor is anyone in my family, but I have been dealing with the change in reality of life in my own home for the last couple of weeks or so. But I am back. It is March 27th, 2020. And as you know, we're all living in this really strange reality right now in the United States and in New York City, where the COVID-19 virus is really the epicenter is in New York City. We're, sheltering in place. Gyms are closed. We're actually not closing the parks, but we're having to make really smart decisions about what is best in terms of just being out and going for a run. I'm a marathon coach. I'm a distance runner, not a fast one, but a long distance runner coach and runner myself. And so it's been a really tricky transition for a lot of people. And I've been doing a lot of podcasts this week on the other channel that we have at InShape Fitness called Muscle Maintenance. I've reenacted something called the Functional 5, and I'm going to be doing one of those each week where I pick 5 exercises. And Functional 5 is something I've been doing for years with clients that I see on a regular basis in New York in my private business. That really is, the simple concept is almost always the best. And it seems so overly simplified, but to pick 5 exercises that you mechanically know how to do well, right? So not 5 really super fancy exercises, though sometimes we'll make the variations a little bit fancier as the weeks can, continue. I start with the really most basic one at the beginning of the week. And then by today, what I did with the Functional 5 today was to sort of combine some things so that you elevate the heart rate and kind of output, a bit more energy to conduct the exercise routine than in the beginning of the week. But the Functional 5 at its most basic form is picking 5 exercises and executing them really well over the period of a minute per exercise. So at the very least, it is 5 minutes of stimulating physical time that you can squeeze into the first hour of your morning. And what I've been doing, because I have, I'm a teacher now. I'm the lunch lady now. I'm I'm obviously cooking for my family at this point. And because of my husband's work, it is, most of the managing of the home is falling to me, and which is fine, because I can do a lot of different things. I'm pretty good at being able to morph into different types of people, and it's not super hard for me to try to manage all of the cooking and cleaning. He's doing the shopping, by the way, but the cooking and the cleaning, and then I've got to be a teacher for my daughter, and so what I've been doing is getting up a little earlier so that I have a little bit of quiet time for myself, and so that I can exercise. And then I'm running a little bit later in the day as things slow down for like the school day kind of thing. But this podcast today is, kind of my way of helping a lot of the clients that have been talking to me throughout these last couple of weeks, as the transition has become more and more, it's severe. In New York City, it's really severe. Lots of people left New York City, and that some of the scientists believe is one of the reasons why it's spreading so quickly throughout the country, because people have, because of travel, right? People have left and have been continuing to travel around the country, which is something that could be debated elsewhere. But the new reality for many of my clients is that what they used to do is get up, squeeze in a workout at some point during the day, and then they're off and dealing with the rest of their day. So their workouts with me were 45 minutes to an hour. That was their workout time, and then the rest of the time was dedicated to the other functions of their life, their jobs and families and so on. But now everything is kind of coagulating in littler chunks, but obviously physical fitness is something that people are typically not used to doing in smaller chunks. So we're going to try to go through not your schedule or a calendar, but to think about different ways that you can, kind of plant in the time that you need for your physical fitness, your physical self, your physical health into your day in smaller chunks in order to make sure that that the priority of your health doesn't diminish. In fact, one of the things that's should be most sort of acutely different about the life that we live after this is all over is that preventative health and, really taking great care of yourself is one of the mistakes that we've made as a society in this country. There are pockets of society around the United States where physical fitness is a priority. Not that many of them, but there are a couple of them. I think maybe you've heard about something called the Blue Zones, which is a National Geographic kind of initiative around the world where people tend to live 10 years longer on average than the rest of the global community, and they don't do it with exercise. They don't do it by going to the gym, by being at the coolest Soul Cycle class or Pilates class or yoga studio. They do it by being active throughout the day, by eating real food, by being social and loving towards their community members, but not at all focused on the sort of blind kind of devotion to calorie burn and muscle mass and oxygen uptake, and maybe speed and stuff like that. Now, again, I'm a marathon coach, so there are some components to the competition in the United States that I truly admire and have used as a tool for my own sanity and my own happiness. But Blue Zones in the United States, there's only one place, actually. It's called Loma Linda, California, that was officially designated, I believe, a Blue Zone. But there were a couple of other localities in Minnesota. I think there was one potentially up in New England somewhere where it was becoming a little more essential, a little more sort of part and parcel to the daily life of people to be outside more, to take longer walks, to be in the park, to to reject the notion of fast food and prepackaged food and, sort of this devotion to the external components of physical fitness to really internalize them. So maybe at the end of all of this, we'll recalibrate our understanding of what it means to be physically active, what it means to be healthy, and get real about the way that we treat our bodies. All right, getting out of bed, okay, and I can't say this enough times, rolling out of your bed and onto a chair in your home is worse than what we used to do, which would be rolling out of bed into the shower, maybe downing a cup of coffee or tea, but into the shower, and then onto a subway car or a car seat, into a car, and then into a desk and where you stay pretty much the rest of the day. It is so bad for you. And it's even worse for you to roll out of your bed to your desk chair and basically sit there the whole day. Now, as I think I've mentioned already, one thing that might be happening just by virtue of all the stimuli going on around you in your home. If you're a parent, like in my house, I'm not used to there being an 11-year-old, kind of wandering around the house all day long, 5 days a week. I had a lot of solitary time where I could do my paperwork and record my podcast and do my to do my work as well as my writing and stuff like that. So I'm constantly being pulled in different directions. And if you're handling you're managing, overseeing a home at this point, you're probably dealing with a lot of those, varietal kind of conditions in the four walls of where you live. So that means that you might not be able to sit for long periods of time. And you're therefore forced to get up to get a snack for somebody, or you're forced to get up to clean up a mess, or you're forced to, answer the door for the mailman or something like that. Whatever it is, you might have to move around a little bit more, which we should view as a decently good thing. It's a little more chaotic. You don't have the ability to dedicate certain blocks of time for different, things that you may or may not do for your job. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't start the day with something. And that goes back to the functional 5. And what I'm hoping you'll do is once a week, I've been doing the In-Shape Fitness Show. The In-Shape Fitness Show has probably been on the air now for about 4 or 5 years, maybe a little bit longer. And I do these once a week. And it's typically me riffing on the sort of health and fitness news of the day, of the week. If it something comes out, some new science comes out, some new sort of study, like the study, one of my favorite ones of recent has been the study of push-ups, and how indicative a push-up, your ability to execute 40 push-ups is potentially indicative, not just of your ability to do push-ups, but of your cardiovascular system and your potential to develop heart disease as you get older. So, so those are the kinds of things that I talk about on the In-Shape Fitness Show. I'm going to continue to do that. I don't know. I'm not going to talk about the disease, the epidemic that we're dealing with right now at all, because I'm not that part of the reality that we're living right now is just not my skill. Public health is not my expertise. I'm paying attention, very, very closely paying attention to the things that are happening, especially here in New York City. And I have really close friends who are emergency medicine and medical doctors in the health system in New York City, and elected officials that I know really well involved in the local government sort of response to what's happening in New York City right now. So I have a lot of opinions about what's happening, but your exercise life and the way that you are able to get outside, the way that you're able to sort of stay active, the way that you're able to stay small with your exercise regimen now is, again, hopefully a part of a transition that we all make together for a better way once this period of time ends for us. So recalibration of physical fitness will be one of the big goals, one of the big themes over the next weeks that we're all quarantined or somewhat quarantined in our homes, where we're not going to the office. So, and that's something to remember. I know this is not the case around the country. My family is from Virginia, and at this point I have a nurse niece, and she has to go to work. She works in an emergency room in Virginia, and then my brother is in the technology at the VA hospital in Tidewater, Virginia, and he is going to work. But we, for the most part, in lots of different parts of the country, there are limits being placed on places that you can go. And in New York, nothing is open except for essential services, meaning grocery stores and drugstores, obviously hospitals, so police departments and the fire department, sanitation, essential services are operating, but that's it. So the Empire State Building, if you wrap your head around this, because I keep thinking about it, I'm like, what? This can't possibly be the case, but it's true. The Empire State Building is empty, right? No one is working there right now. The World Trade Center tower, the Freedom Tower, it's empty. No one is working in the high rises. The skyline of New York is not occupied at this point. That's fascinating to me. So everyone that lives in the tri-state area of New York City is in their homes. And the point of doing these podcasts in the next couple of weeks is going to be about how that looks when we have to do all of the exercise work on inside of our apartments, which are typically pretty small, not always small, but typically pretty small. We don't live in friends' apartments, and or I guess more like Seinfeld apartments, because Seinfeld's apartment was pretty small, but we don't typically have sprawling space. So you've got to think small. But thinking small with your workouts is still possible to get what you need to get done. Now, I also don't typically talk about food, because there are a lot of great podcasts, there are a lot of great experts out there talking about food. And I have always talked about exercise in a way that mirrors, I hope he would, if he would ever listen to this podcast, which I'm sure he doesn't, but Michael Pollan, who wrote, several really amazing readable books about the concept of eating basic food, right? The concept from what's it called? It's not Omnivore's Dilemma. It was the other book where the subtitle is Eat Plants, Don't Eat Too Much, Eat Plants, and the sort of really basic, sort of simple concept, and that is applicable to exercise as well. Like, exercise frequently. It doesn't have to be too hard. In fact, one of the components to the public health crisis that you should internalize if you're an exercise aficionado is to remember that you can experience your immunity suppression. You can render harm to your immunity if you overdo it, right? So marathon training right now is a bit tricky. If, for example, you're, still hoping that at some point the Boston Marathon is going to take place, which it's not, obviously. This, I think it's rescheduled technically right now for the fall. You're not, going out to run 16, 18, 20 mile runs may be tricky if your body is not used to it. So moderate exercise is a good thing right now. Heavy duty exercise could be a bad thing right now. So thinking small, and that's going to be one of the themes for the next couple of weeks. The last thing that I'll say is to end your day. So I started at the beginning about the beginning of your day. When you begin your day and you hopefully adopt my principle of functional 5 exercises, to pick 5 things. Again, it doesn't have to be the same 5 things that I did this week. The 5 things that I did this week were hip bridge, plank, jumping jacks, squats, and lunges. Those are really, really simple exercises, right? You probably know how to do them. Whether you know how to do them really well is a question that I can't answer, obviously, because I can't see you. But most people know those 5 exercises. And so we took them, we've done different variations of them all week long. We're going to do something different. We're going to do 5 different exercises next week. But pick 5 things that you can do. That functional 5 in the morning, even if it turns into 5 sets maybe of the 5 for a total of 25 minutes, or whether it's 5 minutes because you do each one time, 1 minute. 1 minute in total for each of the 5 exercises. 5 minutes is still something. Something at the beginning of the day is really important. The last thing that I'll say before I say goodbye for the week today is that you should end your day with stretching, with some relaxation. And especially, a lot of people talk about meditative work at the beginning of the day, which is typically how I do best meditative work. The end of the day should be quiet and soothing, stretching types of movements. Don't just plop down in your bed if you can. Because if you take a couple of minutes in child's pose, you take a couple of deep breaths in each of your poses, real deep inhales through your nose. And remember, I was just sort of riffing on the inhale through the nose business on the other podcast. Inhaling through your nose is a really smart way to try to consume your oxygen, assuming you don't have any inflammation in your nasal passages and it's not painful. But inhaling deeply through your nose is the oxygen consumption that you would like in terms of your ability to manage your hormone levels. We're all anxious and stressed right now. So mouth breathing is an unproductive respiratory operation in your body right now. If you inhale through your mouth, you take in oxygen through your throat, you activate a primitive part of your brain that's called the sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system pumps hormones. It's fight or flight. So it's pumping hormones into your bloodstream, and you don't want that. You don't want more adrenaline in your bloodstream when you are getting ready to go to bed. If you inhale through your nose deeply through some gentle stretches, nothing too serious. But if you're in child's pose, you deep inhale through your nose to take in your breath, and then exhale deeply through your mouth. That's a really productive way to try and relax the body and prepare your mind to get a good night's rest. Child's pose, downward facing dog if you can, hugging your knees if you're lying on your back. Go from a knee hug to a lower back stretch where you keep your shoulders flat but drop both of your knees down to one side. And you can even get that IT band stretch in there at that time, and do obviously both sides. A pigeon pose to stretch your butt a little bit, or a pretzel to stretch out your butt a little bit, is another really great exercise in terms of ending your day. Your back and your glutes and the sides of your body, that rotation through your trunk a little bit with the IT band stretch, those are really, really excellent ways to end each of your days. So we're going to get through this together. It's not going to be easy, but the goal over the next couple of weeks with the In Shape Fitness Show is to try to help break your physical day into some small palatable chunks, and to help think about a recalibration, the way that we look at fitness, so that when we get to the other side, we can celebrate a renewed sense of priority in public health as a society, and for our individual selves, think about a better way to conduct our regular exercise regimens to celebrate your inner health and really enjoy your life to a greater degree. Have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you again soon.